there was some news that came out over the weekend that allegedly, per Pete Nakos, Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate were both offered millions of dollars. Jeremiah Smith being offered right around $4.5 million, with Carnell Tate being offered right around $1 million to hit the transfer portal. And it got me thinking, man, tampering and poaching in college football is absolutely out of control. But what do you do about it? What do you do? I mean, this is a thing that is running rampant in our sport. Everyone knows it's happening, and nobody seems to really be able to do anything about it. And so that got me thinking, what would be the thing that if we were running a football program today, we would try and do? And the answer to me feels sort of obvious. Full disclaimer, this is not speaking to Ohio State. This is not speaking to anybody in particular. This is just a general discussion around tampering and poaching in college football. We proceed. The solution to me, my first gut reaction is it feels obvious. Hey, tell somebody. Be that tattletale. Be that snitch. Snitches get stitches. Okay, maybe so, but snitches keep their players. I'd have to think that's probably the way that works. But it seems like nobody really does that. So that got the gears turning. Why don't we see coaches turning in other coaches? And I get the optics part of it. Like, your house probably isn't all that clean. Even if it isn't you that's doing the tampering, you probably have somebody else on your staff who, if you were to tamper, or if you were to report a tampering, then maybe the NCAA comes knocking and they look at your house and say, oh, you're not tampering, but this coach is. Maybe it happens. Also, let's be real. You never know who's going to hire you next. Maybe you need a job tomorrow and that coach you just turned in is the head coach at X, Y, and Z school and you want to go work for him. The third part of it is, okay, I get it. Like, tattling is not really the best look in the world. I totally understand that. But talking to some folks in the college football coaching world, the responses that I got when I asked them this question of why don't coaches turn each other in is like, there's not really any point to it. Nobody actually really gets in trouble even when coaches are turned in because nobody can do anything about it. Why? Because nobody's actually in charge. It's sort of like if we were to pull up to the office today and I see Cato speeding in a school lane. Like, he's going 60 down to 20, and I'm like, that's not okay. So I go to the office today, and I talk to our boss and say, hey, listen, I love my guy Caden, but he's got a need for speed, man. Got a lead foot. Got to do something about this. My boss is like, that's unfortunate. What do you want me to do? I'm not in charge of that. Same deal with the NCAA right now. They're like, we'd love to do something. We're actually not in charge of anything. They have no real power. There's no governing body. We can't enforce something that we have no power over. And that's why the main solution everyone's calling for across the board is like, hey, we need a commissioner, we need a governing body, we need somebody in charge of this whole thing. And so you take that and say, great, let's go get a commissioner. Let's hire a commissioner today. Who's supposed to do that? There's no company to fill the job with. You can't put a posting out for a job that doesn't exist because the company itself doesn't exist. What I'm trying to say is if we were to try to hire a commissioner, who's supposed to be in charge of that? There's no apparatus to even start there. So that in itself lies the problem of why we can't really have any success when it comes to the whole tattletaling thing. Nobody gets in trouble, and also nobody's even in charge. So that's a whole situation in itself. But I started thinking, too, like, okay, if I'm a fan of Missouri, or I'm a fan of Louisville or Syracuse or whoever, I hate tampering. I'll say this right now, too. As a fan of college football, period, I hate tampering. I hate what it's doing to the sport. I hate the unethical nature of it. But at the exact same time, I hope my school's doing it. I hate that they're taking away our players, but I better sure as heck go tamper with someone else's players. Otherwise, I'm going to get got. It's like, what am I supposed to do? Just turn a blind eye and take the high road and then not try and tamper? And then what happens? I have less good players, so I have less results on the field, and so I lose more games, and so I'm out of a job. What am I supposed to do here? If I'm a fan, what am I rooting for? I hope my first thought, I said this, and I said it very tongue-in-cheek, obviously joking, but I probably would feel this way if I were a fan of a Power 4 school. Jeremiah Smith offered $4.5 million. Man, that's awful. I hate that. Hope it was Cornell. Hope Cornell's throwing their hat in the ring. Hope they're trying to get my guy over to Ithaca, New York to make some plays. That's neither here nor there, but again, like, the solution just is, it's so tricky because if you're not using it, you're having it used against you. And that doesn't make it right. It doesn't mean that we should endorse it or be okay with it, but it does make it a game of survival for these coaches and these people that their lives depend on what these teams do on Saturday afternoons. So the solution, like I said, is having a governance. That'd be like the big, okay, we can maybe start to put together some real healing and real progress solution. But I think in real time, there's two immediate solutions that I think we can examine if we're trying to combat poaching. The first is the same solution that every other business and or industry and business puts into place, which is like, you just fight fire with fire, dude. I don't like it, you don't like it, but if it's about money and they're going to take your guy, your top quarterback, your top receiver from a money perspective, okay, let's come correct with the dollars and cents. Let's put a better package together for X, Y, and Z player, and let's keep them home. Cool. I don't know this for a fact, but Ohio State, with the roster they had intact this season, keeping guys from going to the NFL or probably keeping other guys from transferring, I don't think that they're dealing with a small dollar amount. Have to believe that. The second solution is a little bit more grassroots, and it's the same reason why people that are, in their current job don't leave for more money, because they like their coworkers, they like the job they do, they like their boss. And it's sort of simplistic and warm, fuzzy, feely, but I really do think in the day and age of where we are in college football, where everyone's offering a bag, the coaches that are able to be real with these kids and sit down and have a transparent conversation of, hey, this is what we think you're worth. You can probably make more somewhere else. There's no guarantee that you're going to be able to have the same success on the field as you're having here, but this is the reality. Just being real with these kids and having transparent conversations, I think that goes a long way, especially when there's that credibility there to begin with. Like Kenny Dillingham talked about this on a podcast with Bustin' with the Boys. He's like, we're real with our guys. We're real with our guys, and they appreciate it, and we haven't had a lot of guys leave because of it. Now, again, I'm not pretending that money doesn't play some sort of factor for these kids. It absolutely can, and honestly, it probably should for some of these guys. But at the end of the day, there is still a relational element to college football that wins. Now, does it win less than maybe it used to? Sure. But a paycheck is nice, and I think the guys that are able to maybe zoom out and have this perspective choose to say the paycheck is nice, and maybe the paycheck is the end-all be-all, but a paycheck hits once a week if you're lucky. Maybe it's bi-monthly, I don't know. But every single day you show up and go to work with the same people, the same locker room, the same staff. Having that be in a good spot goes a long way. I think it does, and I think that's maybe the other way you can try to combat tampering and poaching. And I have to believe now, I don't think Ohio State's keeping Carnell, Tate, and Jeremiah Smith in their roster for nothing, but I do think that the relationship with Brian Hartline, that locker room, having just won a national title, all those things, I don't think that hurt in keeping those guys in Columbus. So, will we ever see an end to tampering? I don't know, but we will see these schools with big budgets and strong cultures have the best chance to push back against them.